Morning, everyone. This is Friday. It is weekend. How fast is this week gone? I'm looking forward to share with you. This is the only talk for Friday because you all need to rest on Friday afternoon. And so this morning we have Louis Blom. He has a lot of experience. And Louis, I would love you to, when you're on Word, to share a little bit about your experience, because at the moment you are the business. And I know you have a lot of experience. You've been working with a lot of companies. You've traveled throughout Africa. And I would love you just to share with everyone what your experience have been. And then it's after that you've done that, please then start with your slideshow. And the floor is going to be all yours. And I'm looking forward. Everyone, please listen. And if you have questions, leave the questions until the end. And then ask your questions. Also, all the replays of the week are online. You're welcome to go to listen to them and just go through it. And remember, with a replay, you can skip parts and you can forward and backwards. And maybe it's good also if you know someone that needs some of the advice that has been shared this week, to look out for that. But from my side, I want to say thank you for those who've been at every single one this week. You know, it means a lot. And I hope you all learned something, and I know you're going to learn something new, and you're going to walk away with some tips. And Louis, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Cobus. Morning, ladies and gents. Welcome to my session, and I'm sure it's going to be a nice session today. Yeah, as Cobus said, I've been in different industries for over 30 years now, from engineering to IT to financial and so forth. So yes, been there, done it, experienced quite a number of different businesses, and that I've decided to bring all that experience and what I've learned through the years and put it into a small presentation for you people today, and hopefully we can learn something from this and grow together. So yeah, I'm just going to jump in right into the presentation. Business communication. It's quite a tricky subject to discuss with people, because normally you need to sit around the table with the client, with the person who needs to, or who is in business and who is doing the communication in their business. Now, today is not just about communication, but it would be more business communication. And the theme for today would be, but what am I missing? What am I missing in my business and in my business communication? So let's jump into that and see what's happening. Now, first, I need to give out a warning that this session is not going to be a talking show. I'm not a storyteller. I'm a fact finder. Be aware that you might be challenged, that you are going to dig deep into yourself and to be honest to yourself and put the facts on the table. Let's get into it. What are the topics for today, or the things that we're going to discuss in business communication? First, we're going to look at the business plan guidelines. The reason why I'm starting with the business plan guidelines is I have a number of people contacting me and asking me, but how do they start businesses? I would say 80% of the people is new business cannot benefit from today's session, but the stepping stone will be today to look at the small business first and apply that to your medium and larger companies as well. So yes, first we will look at the business plan guidelines. Then we look at defining your business plan, and that will relate to your raising your capital, as well as your type of business that you want to do. After that, we'll have a quick look at starting the new business. What is the basic needs that you need to look at? Then personal strengths and weaknesses. Very important that we have a quick look at that today, because that will determine if you are ready for a small business, to start your business or to run your business. We'll also have a quick look at startup costs. Very important again. If you don't know what your cost is, how are you going to do your business? We're also going to have a look at possible marketing strategies. Now, I know Kobus is the marketing guru and so on, so I'm not going to step on everybody's toes, or I'm just going to have a few couple of strategies and a few ideas on that, and you can work from there forward. Then business communication. We're going to have a look at the communication side of business, and I'm going to share a couple of ideas with you. Again, this is not your normal just by word communication. This is communication within the business. So let's get started. First, business plan guidelines. What is the purpose of a business plan? Now, a business plan will help you think through the venture and ensure you have considered all your options and anticipated any potential difficulties. That just means that you really think through what you want to do, how you're going to do it, where do you want to take this business of yours. Secondly, convince lenders and investors that you are in control of the project and that their money will be safe with you. No bank or lender or investor
Hello, Louis. Are you there? We can't hear you, Louis. I just want to find out. Yeah, Louis has disappeared. Just want to find out where he is. Just hold on. I think the signal is being stolen at the moment. So let me just quickly find out for you. Just hold on. Thank you for holding on, everyone. And I appreciate you for taking the time. So we're going to quickly get Louis back. Louis, come in, Louis. Louis is also being off the webinar, so everyone just hold on. Maybe who's learned. Those are on. If you want to comment, have you learned something at least this week? And I would just like to know what have you learned, and if there was something new. Okay, everyone. Louis is gonna join now. He's just quickly sorting out and reconnecting again. Yeah, his info is vital for business today and struggling disruption. I totally agree, Graham. I think this is what we need to hear and what we need to listen at. It was just an amazing learning journey. Thank you so much. Oh, thank you, Ina. And I know you guys. There's a lot of emails coming in, and there's some of you might feel spam. I got even death threats this morning from 2 people because of all the emails. They say they're gonna, if they find me, they're gonna kill me. And I'm like, but you registered. You just click on the unsubscribe button, and sometimes I do take it personally because if I added you and you didn't register, I can understand. But you're just easy to unsubscribe. But this is a lesson, and I realized this is marketing. Do whatever it takes, and you're gonna find people that's not gonna support him, and you're gonna find people that love what you do. But in the end of the day, how badly do you want your business to be successful? And I say always find those people that are willing to go through the pain with you and grow with you. And those who don't want to, let them go, because they wouldn't have been your clients anyway. They let them go, and one day they're going to come back and they're going to realize they needed your business and guidance. Because the same people that I know, they're the same people that are suffering in business now, that have reached out in the past to have guidance, but that wasn't willing to commit. And now during lockdown, they're complaining, and yet they don't want to be a part of the journey. So it just shows you people are easy to have excuses and to complain about their situation, but they are not willing to take the action. And I think that is the one thing that is important, and sometimes this is going to be painful. Just want to see where Louis is. He hasn't been connecting again. Yeah, Rian, yes. Rian, yes, I will tell Louis for the next presentation. Sometimes I think everyone that's working from house is now just being on fiber and using internet. So he's just quickly restarting his machine and just to log in again. But and I agree with you, Graham. The one thing about it is what I say is, people that respond like that, they actually take the time to respond to you. And that's the funny thing, they don't have the time, but they're willing to take the time to respond to you. But I think that is part of the learning and the thing that we have to go through, because for me, it's all about, it's marketing as being seen, and if people don't want to follow, that's fine. And I think that is part of the journey that everyone needs to understand. You're going to get people that's not going to like you, that's going to give you bad reviews. And the one thing I did to them is I said to them, I really, really apologize. It's my fault, but, however I can make it up to you, please let me know. Now I'm putting the ball in their hands, and, if they don't want something, then I just say to people, don't complain then about your situation. Don't complain about where you are, because when you have a handout and you can get information to grow, then don't complain it because you're not willing to take the hand. Yeah. And Ina says, Dr. Paul said, swifts happen. Graham says, amen. Yeah, swifts happen. We'll just navigate. We'll just navigate around this. Graham says, amen. Graham says, I got violent language emails yesterday. I also apologize. I just delete and move on. Yeah, it's part of the journey. You're always going to find it. It's like giving out flyers, and being a door-to-door salesman. How many people that I had to go through that was cursing at them, that was going crazy. And it's just interesting. That was one of my learnings. I just want to be, Louis is coming. Yeah, interesting, Elizabeth. You say it's bad. The one said, she's getting so much emails from me that the positive is not positive anymore. It's making it negative. And I'm like, how can an email that are supposed to be positive make you negative. So it just shows you the perception and how they see the world. Louis, welcome back, Louis.
Thank you, Gobus. Sorry about that, guys. It seems that our OpenServe has been messing around on my. Let me just.
Yes, communication is a two-way street. Quickly start and share your screen, Louis. Then we can be off and start again.
Almost there. Okay. Okay.
Okay. Go to your. Yeah, we're back. Just go to your second slide. I think you were there with the business planning.
You see more. Okay. Have you seen the one with my topics for today?
Yeah. Yeah. Just go now to business plan. The next slide. Okay. Start from there. Just start from purpose again. Okay.
Okay. Thanks, Chris. Let's just hope my line stays on. Otherwise, I'll have to make plan B. All right. Sorry, guys. Fiber is not as good as I thought. Back to the business plan. Now, what's the purpose of the business plan? Let's quickly have a look at it. Have you thought through the venture and ensure you have considered all your options and anticipated any potential difficulties in this idea that you have to start a business off? Secondly, you need to convince lenders and investors that you are in control of the project and that their money will be safe with you. No lender would want to give you money and they feel unsafe, unsecure with your business proposal, for instance. The business plan also serves as an operating guide as you turn your idea into a viable business. And lastly, business plan furnishes a standard against which to judge your future business and decisions and your results of this business plan that you have. That's just a basic guideline why you need your business plan. Then let's look at defining your business plan. Now, there's two areas for raising capital. Well, two main areas. There are more, but I'm only gonna touch on two of them today due to time constraints. The one is bankers. Bankers would want to know what assurance of orderly repayments can you offer them. A bank needs to have something. You need to assure them that, look, this is a solid business plan. This is my business cases. This is my client base. This is my referrals. This is where I'm going. This is how my income is going to be. And this is how I'm going to repay the money that the bank is lending you. Furthermore, if you intend to use the plan if you intend to use the business plan for get capital from the bankers, you need to include things like the amount of your loan, how funds will be used, and what will be accomplished by these funds. You also need to include things like requested repayment terms and interest rate. You have to negotiate interest rate. Well, needless to say, I don't think a bank will just give you the best interest rate as a startup company, but you have to negotiate that. And then what collateral can you offer the bank for this money that they're gonna place in your hands? Then raising capital, let's continue on that. The second one is investors that I want to touch on today. Now, investors, investor looks at the investment differently than the bank. A bank is purely interested in the interest rate. That's the return of the investment that they give the money to you. But the investor is looking for a dramatic growth, and they expect to share in the rewards of your business. So that just keep in mind that they might negotiate percentages of your business or some better returns or longer periods and so forth. Well, if you intend to use the plan, this business plan to get money from investors, you need to include things like funds that you need short-term and more your medium to longer-term, your 2 to 3 year plan. They will need to know what is your short-term goals, how much money do you need short-term, how much money are you going to need in 2 to 5 years time as well, because they're not going to give you all the money up front or make it available. Then how funds will be used and what will this accomplish? They need to be informed. They need to be hands-on almost and being reported to. They need to know what is the estimated return of the investment. What is the exit strategy? Because if something happens, you don't fulfill your business promises, your baseline is maybe askew, or a pandemic happens, they need to know what is the exit strategy and what's the percentage of ownership that they might be able to get into your business to be a partner, for instance. And milestones. What is the milestones? What is the short-term milestones, medium, long-term milestones that you want to achieve in your business? Then conditions. There's financial reporting that they need to be reported to back to them. Investors' involvement. Are they going to be involved on the board of your company, for instance? That's all things that you need to consider if you are going to get capital from an investor. To move on. Let's have a look at your type of businesses that you might think of doing. Now, I've only grouped them into your more generic businesses for now. We can discuss on a personal level if there's specific needs that you have. Now, for instance, manufacturing. Manufacturing is a business area where it is actually what the word says. It's manufacturing. It's more things that are produced. It's vehicles, for instance. It is manufacturing of PC equipment or building pieces or hardware, fabric, clothing. All of these type of businesses is part of your manufacturing businesses. Now, the thing with manufacturing is it's production based. Your production levels need to be up. You need to have measurements to manage your production. Your gross profit margins, your overall product lines, all of that is very important because that is production based and production driven at the end of the day. For instance, if you have a new equipment that you're going to need in your manufacturing environment, can you go and buy out second-hand equipment? Do you need new equipment? Do you need new machinery? Are you in a woodworking environment? Are you in the metal industry? So there's a lot of stuff that you need to consider when you go into the manufacturing type of business. Let's move on to your services. Services businesses is more businesses that sell intangible products, for instance. Where you provide desktop support in the IT environment, or you supply accountant services if you're in the financial industry. So again, very important in the services business type of business is your prices. It's a very competitive market. A very small change in your price could either gain you business or it can lose you your business. Then there's things like your systems and production systems within your service environment that you're going to need to use. Are you an IT company that delivers desktop support? Can you do it remotely? Can you contact is your client, for instance, knowledgeable so that you can use your remote access to help them? Your labor in the services business is also very volatile. You need to make sure that the price that you quote your client and what you pay your labor is in line. Otherwise, you're going to lose all your best resources at the end of the day. You also need to have a look, for instance, at your break-even billable hours for your resources. Again, if you are an IT company, you pay your resource X amount. What do I need to bill the client? And what is a break-even point so that I know what my margins is? your profit margins is again your profit margins is very volatile in the services business. Then the next business type that I'm going to touch on is your high technology companies. High technology is more your economic outlook companies, where technology, for instance, your IT companies and so forth, falls more under your high technology companies, even though they do partially do services as well. Now, in highly technology companies, there's a lot of research and development that might need to be done. And that by itself is a lot of expenses that you can't recover or recoup immediately. So you need to keep that in mind, that if you go into this type of business, you need to make sure that you have enough money upfront, enough capital to carry you through a period of time, 6 months or a year, before you can actually show any profit turnover on your investments. Then let's have a look at your retail. Now, most of our companies in South Africa, especially, falls under your retail environment. Retail, again, a lot of your company image is important. For instance, are you a shopping group? Are you a hair salon group? Are you selling food, fresh products? Are you selling specific brands? So your company image is very important in this area, and it's very competitive as well, especially on your pricing. Again, retail markup prices and so forth, you can get in the price war, and it could get quite messy if you are in the price war. The biggest problem with retail business is you need to keep stock of your product that you're going to retail, that you're going to sell. That means you're going to need storage space, warehousing, you're going to have more resources that need to manage this, and so on. So there's a lot of stuff that you need to look at when you go into retail, especially things like credit lines. Are you going to give your clients credit, and what's the credit conditions going to be? If you're going to give them credit, then you need to think of, okay, but I need capital to cover that credit line for specific clients, and for how long is the credit going to be? So there's a lot of stuff that you need to take into consideration if you are going into the retail business. Then let's move on. The time is short today since we've got a problem. Now, starting a new business, I'm only going to touch on 3 phases for now. There are more, but this is, if you want to start your business, you need to look at 3 phases for first. Your background work needs to be done. Background work is things like you need to do proper analysis of the business area, typical, we call it SWOT analysis and so forth. You need to look at access your strengths, your weaknesses as an entrepreneur. You need to establish business and personal goals. You need to assess your financial resources and identify potential sources of funds. Again, I've only touched on 2, bankers and investors, but there are more. But you need to assess where your capital is going to come from. You need to identify the financial risks in your as an entrepreneur, because remember, if an investor gives you money, there's the return of his investment that you abide by. You need to determine what your startup cost is going to be for this company that you want to start for your business. You need to decide, for instance, what your business location is going to be. Location is very important. If you are, for instance, opening up, let's say, a real estate agency, you need to make sure that where your location is, what's the competition in that area, for instance? What's the market like? Is there a lot of movement in the industry? What is your competitors doing in that specific environment? Identify your customer base in that specific work background of your work environment that you're going to create. As I said, identify your competitors. Are there a lot of real estate agents in that specific area? So the more real estate agents, the bigger the competition. Is it worth your while? Shouldn't you move maybe to a different location? Then develop a marketing plan. Very important. Even before, upfront, right in the start, you need to develop a marketing plan. I will touch on that a bit later today. I'm not going to touch on all of these, but I will go into some of them. Then your second phase that you need to look at is your business transactions. Now, this is not just your financial transactions that the normal person think of when you look at the word transaction. These are more things like select a lawyer and an accountant. That's a transaction that you need to put in place. Who's going to be your company lawyer? Who's going to be your company accountant? Choose a form of an organization, for instance. What type of organization is it going to be? Is it a partnership? Is it a corporation, Pty Limited? You need to determine that up front and put that in writing. That needs to be documented and registered depending on what you're going to do. Then create your business. You need to register your business name, your imaging, your business description, what you're going to incorporate into this business. You also need to prepare your proper business plan. I've already touched on the business plan, but you need to have a proper detailed business plan for your business. Select a banker, set up a business checking account. Apply for business loans and grants if it is needed. Do you need a line of credit, for instance? Depending on the type of business, you might need a line of credit. If you get your capital from a banker, you might need to negotiate a line of credit upfront for the days where you're going to need it, depending on your business type again. Then select an insurance agent, for instance, and obtain business insurance. It is important to insure your business. And again, depending on the type of business that you're going to open, that's going to determine the type of insurance that your business is going to need. Then the third phase that I'm going to look at, I just call it the first steps. And from there on forward, you're going to have an up and running business. Now, the first steps would be, for instance, prepare your corporate brochures, build your website, set up corporate email accounts. If you want to be recognized in the business industry as a role player, as a leader, you can't make use of a Gmail account, for instance, as a company account. Set up proper accounts, email accounts, and that will make your business not just look professional, but the whole feel of it. And people will rather do business with a company running an email address that is registered into ABC Pty Limited rather than using @gmail.com. Get business cards, for instance. Depending on your business, not all businesses make use of business cards, but if it is needed, get your business cards, get a proper design for your business cards. Make sure that all the details are that your contact detail. Put your face on the card for that matter. Then, if you need property, if you're not going to run your business from home, for instance, or a home-based company or a small entrepreneurial business, then you need to have a look at your obtaining a lease agreement for property that you're going to use for your company or your entrepreneurship that you're going to run. You also need to determine, depending on your business again, who's your suppliers going to be. You need to line up your suppliers, have agreements in place with all your suppliers to make sure that if you're in the food industry, for instance, that you get fresh delivery on specific dates. Your service delivery agreements need to be in place to make sure that that is enforceable, that you get the best quality product at time as agreed. Then, if you've got a small office, for instance, you can't just sit around your coffee table or your dining room table. You need furniture and equipment for your business. You need proper laptops, for instance, a proper printer, scanner, a proper desk, proper chairs. Are you going to have clients visiting your offices? If so, you need proper client chairs and maybe a small little boardroom where you can meet them. So that's all things that you need to consider and put down in writing and decide upfront if you are going to start your new business. More things that you need to look at. Licenses, for instance, software licenses. Are you going to run specific software packages? Are you a drafting company, for instance? Do you need CAD licenses? So make sure that you identify all these licenses upfront, document it, and make sure what the cost is involved in these different licenses that you're gonna need. You're gonna need, for instance, resources at some stage. make sure that you document what you're going to need from these people you're going to employ, ID numbers, tax numbers, whatever is needed, bank details, and so forth. Then, if depending on your business again, join the professional organizations. If you're a real estate agent, then register with that specific organization as a professional. Then, very important is you need to determine a start date for your company, for this business, for this entrepreneurship that you're going to start. Dot down the date. Without a date, you're not going to be able to start your business. Everything's going to be open-ended. You need to work towards a specific date to make sure that you are accountable and everything is in place by a specific start date. And then, most importantly, prepare and deploy your communication and your marketing strategy. You need to make sure that you are visible. If you're going to start in 2 months' time or open your doors in 2 months' time, make sure that you market upfront that this business, this new real estate agency, or this new fruit and veg store, or this new pizza shop, or whatever the services or accounting business is going to open the doors at that date, and make sure that you market it. Make sure that the environment where you work in, that the area that you're going to cover, that the people that you're going to work with, your resource, everybody is in with your plan, and make sure that you're going to be ready when the start date is there. Let's move on and have a look at personal strengths and weaknesses. Now, personal strengths and weaknesses is important because it's one thing to say that. So there's one thing to say that you want to open up a real estate agency, but you might not be able to speak to clients. You don't have the personality, or you don't feel that's one of your strengths. It might be one of your weaknesses. So you need to determine what is your strengths and weaknesses, because this will have a direct impact on the type of business you're going to do. First point is identify your strengths and weaknesses in the different business skills areas to determine if you're ready to become a small business owner. Very important. You need to know what your strengths and weaknesses is. What is your business skills areas that I'm referring to? Now, there's a couple of them that I'm going to point at today. One is sales. Now, in sales, you have things like pricing, buying, sales planning. Can you negotiate, for instance? Do you have direct selling to buyers, customer service follow-ups, managing other sales reps, or tracking competitors? All of these are different areas within sales, for instance, that you need to evaluate yourself on. How strong are you on these specific areas? And dot them all down. The second area that is important is your marketing area. Your marketing is how strong are you on advertising, promotional products or promotional materials, public relations, for instance. Now, what is your annual marketing plans? What's your media planning and, for instance, advertising copywriting? What's your knowledge about it? How strong are you on this? Or is this more maybe one of your weaknesses? How strong is your distribution channel planning? From a marketing perspective, how strong are you on pricing and packaging, for instance? This whole package as a marketing strategy. It is very important to make sure that you know what your weakness is and be honest with it. Put it in writing and say, okay, on a scale of 1 to 5, I'm going to evaluate myself on each one of these points and determine what is my strengths and where's my weaknesses. The next point is financial planning. Yeah, I might have a look at cash flow planning, monthly financial statements, reporting, and so forth. Your bank relationship, management of credit lines, for instance. If this is not one of your strengths, then rather get somebody to do it for you, or determine what it's going to cost you to get somebody else to do it on your behalf. Another area that you need to look at is accounting. Again, similar with your financials, your accounting, you need to work with a bookkeeper. How good is your bookkeeping? Your filing in terms of of bookkeeping, your billing, your payables, your receivables. How do you manage your monthly profits and losses? It's all things that you need to evaluate yourself on. Another area is, for instance, your administration. Your administrative skills is quite important to any small business. If you're an entrepreneur, you're going to start your business most probably by being yourself, you and yourself alone. Keep in mind that you need to, as a single person, single entrepreneur, look at all these areas. Now, if administration is not one of your strong points, you are going to run into trouble. Part of your administrative duties is, for instance, scheduling, payroll handling, benefits administration, and so forth. So, yes, quite important. Let's continue. All business areas. Your personnel management. How good are you in hiring the correct people to work for your company or your entrepreneurship or your small business? On the other hand, how good are you in firing people, for instance, motivating your employees, general management skills, your personal business skills? How's your oral presentation? Can you convince clients to do business with you, or are you scared to talk to your clients? How good is your written communication skills? Can you do a proper business proposal to send to a client, for instance, to introduce your company, take business into your company to do business with you? How good is your computer skills? How good is your email writing? Do you know how emails work? It's a lot of stuff that you need to take into consideration. There's things like your word processing, for instance, faxes, emails, your organizational skills. Another area is your intangibles. Intangibles is quite wide. If you want to, you can add all the rest into there if you really want to. But that is your ability, for instance, to work long hours. How possible is it for you and viable for you to work long hours? Do you have a family environment where you might have small kids still, where it takes a lot of your time in the evenings, for instance? But can you work long hours or not? You need to make sure what is the weakness, what's the strength in these areas. Ability to manage risks and stresses. How do you manage risk? How do you take calculated risks? How do you manage stress? How do you get relief from stress? Then again, have a look at your family support. Do you have support from your family side? Do your spouse support you in your small business that you are starting up now? Do you have support from the rest of the family chain? Or are they actually going to take up more of your time and you won't have enough time to spend on your business? There's things like the ability to deal with failure. Remember, not all deals is going to be a yes. How are you going to manage and deal with these failures? Because a failure is not necessarily negative. It might just be a stepping stone to the next deal. But how are you going to manage it? Is it going to bring you down personally, or are you going to see that as a positive and say, okay, this was a no. Why was it a no? Let's analyze it. What was the risk, and so forth, and move on and work towards the next project, the next goal. Your ability to work alone. Now, as a one-man business, small business entrepreneur starting up a business, be aware that you are going to work alone and you're going to have to do most of these areas that I've just discussed alone. You have to be able to do all of this. It might not be your strongest point. It might be some of your weaker areas, but at least you will know where to work on and what to focus on and what needs more attention from your side. And then ability to work with and manage others. If you have never worked with resources, with employees, how are you going to manage them? Do you know how to manage them? Do you maybe need more training in that area? How are you going to get experience? So that these are all areas that you need to look at and take into consideration and be honest with yourself and mark it. Let's say 1 is my weakest and 5 is my strongest. So evaluate yourself according to that, but be honest, because that will be a good area for you to know where you can grow in and where your business is going to be stable, but where you need to work on. Right, let's look at startup costs. I'm just going to check the time. Almost out of time. Okay, startup costs. What is startup costs? Startup costs is things like, let me give you a a couple of examples. Accounting services. There's going to be costs involved to get an accountant on board, to register your company. There's going to be costs involved to set up your branding, for instance, to set up a website. You're going to need cash upfront because there's a lot of stuff that you will need to pay cash, for instance, if you can negotiate for that. Your advertising promotional costs is something that you need to think of. That's a cost that's going to be upfront even before you start your business. What equipment do you need? Startup costs, you need a PC, a laptop, a printer. You need a proper internet service provider. You need to estimate taxes because you are going to pay provisional taxes at certain times of your business and your financial year, for instance. Do your business cater for that, or what? It's all depending on what type of business you're going to run. You need to think of startup costs like installation costs. Do you have a proper infrastructure that you need to set up? Is there any legal costs? Insurance is going to cost you upfront, for instance. Do you need to move stuff? Do you need to move to a new office? Do you need to set up a new office? Or do you need to make changes at your current property to accommodate your business? You might have printing designs and printing of brochures, marketing material. It's all startup costs that you need to look at. Software, for instance, vehicles, and the list can go on and on and on. But you need to sit and be honest with yourself and write down all the costs that you can think of that is going to have an impact on the startup of your business. Now, why is this important? Very important is that your total startup costs will be an indication of your suggested operating capital needed to break even. That's even before you start business. You need to make sure that you need to cover all these costs. Otherwise, you're going to sit with debt. Very important. All right. Next area, possible marketing strategies. As I said before, I'm not going into too much detail. This is more just identifying a couple of areas. Segmentation strategy, for instance, that's your geographical strategy. Demographic falls under that. Even your behavioral strategy falls under segmentation. As I said, for instance, real estate and so forth. What is the behavioral of the environment that you're gonna do your conduct your business in? Second one is target market selection, and that is single. You could have selective markets that you want to target. You could have a product market. You could have a full market coverage, for instance, and just go for the full Monty and do it all. The third one is differentiation. Now, the thing with differentiation is what differentiates your business from the rest? Is it your product, for instance? Is it your service that you're going to deliver? Is it your personnel? Is it the image of your company? All of these differentiation factors you need to identify to determine if this is a marketing strategy that you want to follow. Next one is positioning. Now, positioning is a couple of things you need to look at, for instance. What's your attribute on your positioning of your marketing? What is the benefit of this? How going to use your application positioning? How your user positioning? Your competitors, how are they positioned in this market? So you need to take all of this in consideration. The quality of your price, for instance, the product categories. Look at all of this and determine where are you going to position yourself in the market. Right, next one. This is more a mixture of a couple of things that I've just put together. One is, for instance, the product. Is it a new product? Is there a new product line? Is it an existing brand or is it a new brand? What's your packaging going to look like, or the labeling, for instance? What is the product life cycle that you need to look at? Then we're going to look at pricing, for instance. Pricing is, what is your markup price, your target on your return price? What is your perceived value of your product price? That's things like, for instance, your geographical pricing. A motor vehicle, or let's rather stick to the real estate agencies, a property in one area will cost you X amount, but the very same property in a different area could cost you either way more or way less. So you need to determine what is your area, the geographical area where you're going to price your product in, for instance. Are you going to have pricing discounts, bulk buying, or multiple orders, or comeback clients? It's all marketing strategies that you need to look at. Then let's have a look at promoting strategies. That's how are you going to promote your product or your business? Are you going to use advertising, billboards? Are you going to use point of purchase displays? Maybe packaging inserts, maybe sales promotions, or making use of public relations. There might be personal selling or even direct marketing. Now, another part of this mixture of marketings that I put together is the places. What is your channel choice? Are you going to have a market logistics area? Are you going to have an inventory? Transportation modes and carriers for goods, for instance. All of these things are quite important if you look at specific possibility or possible marketing strategies. Because all of these, you could even have a combination of them all, as I've tried to put together the last four as a marketing mixture. But that's things that you need to decide on before you start your business. Let me just check the time. Okay. Right. Now let's get into business communication. Business communication, there's dozens of ways to communicate. The challenge is for yourself to consider how you can use any of these tools to improve your relationship with employees, with your clients, with your customers, with investors, with other stakeholders. Now, the first one I'm going to touch on is written materials. Now, written materials is things like memos inside your company. That's mostly, most of it is internal, but also there's a portion of it where you go outside where you do proposals, for instance. But it's memos, for instance. Are you going to send out a newsletter internally or externally? Direct emails or direct mails. What does your letterheads look like? Your business cards. Do you have brochures, pamphlets, for instance, or flyers? Do you have booklets? Are you in the magazine industry? Are you doing surveys? So there's a lot of stuff that you need to look at. What does your financial reporting look like? Your annual reports? Do you have pie charts or graphs to show what's happening in your business on financials, for instance, or product or sales, or doesn't matter what it is. How are you communicating this? In what way? What are you going to use? Do you have postcards, for instance, or posters? Your advertisements. Is your advertisements running on social media, or are you running it as printed advertisements, for instance? Do you have slogans in the company? If you look at Nando's, for instance, they've got a way with words that is scary sometimes. Your contacts, for instance, paper styling and the coloring on your paper, the quality of your paper, all of these has an influence on the way that you communicate your business internally to your employers as well as externally to your clients. The next communication method is meetings, for instance. Now, meetings could be very constructive or it could be very disconstructive if you're not going to do it properly. Now, lately with the pandemic, most people working remotely, we had to convert to Zoom meetings or Google Teams or WhatsApp groups. It doesn't matter. There's a lot of stuff that you can use. How are we conducting ourselves in these meetings? Normal meetings used to be one-on-one, for instance, in person, but now you can do a one-on-one remotely as well. What's the effect of this way of communication? Group discussions. What about team meetings? Things like breakfast meetings. I know I've got a good friend down in Cape Town, and she always tells me they've got a breakfast meeting with these with the directors and the managers and so on, and it works for them. And I'm sure it will work for other companies as well if it is in your line of business. or lunch meetings, for instance, seminars, conferences. What is your grievance system? Because that's a way of communicating from an employer side, from an employee to the employer. Your video conferencing, for instance, do you allow people to do video conferencing? We have to now with the pandemic running around in the world. So we need to rethink how are we going to conduct our meetings, how are we going to communicate with our employees regarding meetings, for instance. Then the next one is individual communication. Individual communication is not necessarily word of mouth. This is more things like dress code, intonations, body language, eye contact. It's things like smell in your office. Do you like the smell of pine trees, for instance? Facial expressions. Now, the problem with individual communication like this is a lot of this is with the remote communication methods is being used, and the problem we've got with the internet, fiber connections, data connections, and so forth. Most people turn off the video cameras, so that takes away a lot of the communication that we have with our resources. Then the next one is telephone or mobile phones. Do you have a voicemail system, for instance? Do you have a standard voicemail system for the company, or are you going to have one for your small business? Do you have, for instance, what way of communication are you going to have to page somebody? Are you going to send them WhatsApp messages, or are you going to send them SMSs? What way of communication are you going to use? Telephones and cell phones is also very important if you go into the telemarketing business or industry. You need to make sure that your telephone lines or your cell phone lines or your data lines is up and running, and that the way that you communicate is going to reach your client base. Next one is computers and technology. Now, computers and technology is almost self-explanatory. It's utilizing your emails. How is your geographical information system, your GIS system, impacting your business, or if it is your industry business? Are you making use of push technology, social medias? Are you going to use multimedia? How visual is your simulations, for instance? Your website, landing pages, your intranet. There's a lot of stuff that you need to consider when you go into or communicate and making use of computers and your technology. Then your facilities. How does communication in a business work inside your facilities? Very important. If you're going to have resources or employees working for you, what's the design or the layout of your office? Is your business the type of business where people need to be isolated because of sound or noise? Are they finding a lot of clients? Are they following up with clients? Or can they sit in an open office, for instance? What's the effect going to be on the lighting in your facility? Or the color of your walls even plays a role. Or what type of art are you putting up in your company? What's the access like to your building? If it is a home-based business, you run your offices from home and you've got a couple of employees, how accessible is your home-based office to these employees? Are you living in an estate where they need to go through the whole process every morning to come in, every day to go out? Is your business, for instance, let's say real estate again, where you've got real estate agents working for you now? Now they need to be in and out the whole day. So how's that going to have an effect on your estate, for instance, where you stay? How's the accessibility? And then the flexibility of your facilities. Again, flexible depending on the access, depending on your flexibility on working hours. Communication, can they work remotely? Do you need them in the office every day? How flexible are you in communicating with your firstly with your employees and secondly with your clients? Then I've just called it miscellaneous. I've just chunked the rest of the stuff in there. That's things like videos or awards? How do you towards your employees? How do you communicate bonuses? What is the effect of a bonus in terms of communication in your company? Public relations. Do you have, for instance, a suggestion system where employees can come up with suggestions, and do you actually read these suggestions? Do you listen to them? Do you consider them? Billboards, satellite transmissions. There's a whole bunch of stuff, giveaways that you can give to your clients. So yeah, there's a lot of stuff that you need to look at when you do communicate inside your business, but not just with your employees, but also toward your clients. Now, in conclusion, communication is an art. There's no doubt about that. I think we all do agree with that. The challenge in all of this is to establish a one-to-one relationship. People are drowning in information. People are overloaded in information, yet they are thirsting for knowledge. Now, by making all your communications permissive and mindful, you have the key to personal and business success. Now, that is my story for today. I've only touched on a lot of these on a lot of these issues. There's a whole bunch more that we can discuss, but you are welcome to contact me. My contact details are on the screen. My email address, my cell phone. Feel free to take it down. You can contact me if you can't get hold of me, or welcome to contact Kobus as the organizer. My contact details is with him as well. And yes, thank you for your time. I don't know if there's any questions. Questions for anybody? I'm just trying to see if there's any questions that I've missed. Okay.
Are you there, Louis?
Let me just quickly see if there's any more questions I can.
Are you there, Louis?
Yes, I'm here. I'm just trying to go through these questions.
Awesome. Okay, so you're just working through the questions. Hi, everybody. I see Laura is.
I'm here, Graham. I was just waiting to see if Louis was having a little more of an issue, but I can hear him.
Cool. So I'll sign off.
Awesome. Thanks, Graham. Louis, are you good?
Yes, Laura. Thank you. I'm good.
I just wanted to give you a few seconds because I know there can be a lapse at times.
Yeah, I'm trying to get hold of the questions. It's a bit difficult at this stage because it seems that my internet connection is a bit slow this morning. You know, Murphy's Law.
I think it's weather time, absolutely.
Yeah. Laura, is there any specific questions that you can maybe point out?
I'm having a look at, and the questions are very general. I think what I'd like to ask is for you to pop your questions in so that I can repeat them to Graham so that he can ask them. You're welcome to go ahead and type. I'm watching the screen. I'm watching Graham. I can see all of you. So if you'll just type your questions and I'll get Graham to answer them. Louis, are you there?
Yes, Laura, I'm here.
Great. Guys, any questions for you? Or any questions for Louis? No questions are coming up, Louis. Are you ready to continue, or should we sign you out?
Yes, Laura, what we'll do is, if there's any questions, they've got my email address and my number. They can just send it through, and I will answer the questions.
I have a question here from Graham for you, Louis.
Yes,
Does
sure.
colour play a big role in business?
Does?
Colour as in red, green, blue,
Colour,
play
yes.
a big role in business?
Yes, it very much plays a very important role in business. Let's say you have employees. Let's take a medical environment or a medical practice. There's certain colors that might calm people down, for instance. I know that, for instance, in children's homes where they look after specific problem areas of children, for instance, they have to use light blue, for instance, because it calms down the individual. Also, you won't want colors in your company that make people aggressive. You want to stay away from your reds and stuff like that, for instance. But then again, if you're an art business or going to the art environment, it's a different story. So you need to determine what your business is, and that will determine what your color scheme is going to be. Also, what your artwork is going to be, because your artwork is linked to your coloring scheme that you use inside your company.
Absolutely. I can't agree with you more. In fact, I've just done a full color overall on our company as well, and we had to be very cautious not to get into someone's face. I have another question for you from Francois. Francois says, Louis, what is your view on employee satisfaction surveys, especially ones where they send you a link via email and ask you not to share the link, but guarantee you that it's anonymous?
It is very important to determine or to send us surveys to your employees, for instance.
Louis, can you hear us? You've gone dead. Louis? Guys, it looks like Louis's gone dead again. Although I'm not seeing him. Louis? I think we've lost Louis. Louis, I'm going to give you a few seconds to log in again. Can everybody hear me? All right, so it seems like we've lost Louis. I know that he was coming to the end. Of his presentation. Technology, Sonia, you're correct. It can be a little bit tough, especially, it's kind of called Murphy's Law, I reckon. Louis, I am seeing one or two more questions here. But we've answered the bulk of them. I know that you were, Francois, I know that you were quite keen on Louis' question, on having Louis answer your question, and you can hear my birdies in the background. I live in Knysna. You're absolutely correct. The birds are beautiful. It's a very cold day here today. Louis gone. We can't get hold of Louis. Francois, I'm going to send Louis, and you have Louis your email. You have Louis' email address, and you have his mobile. So we will make sure that Louis answers this question. I will actually post the question on our group so that Louis can answer it. I see Francois typing again. Graham says goodbye. Have a wonderful day, Graham. Thanks for attending. Francois says thank you, Lara. Louis, have a wonderful day, guys. Thank you for enjoying our summit, especially Louis' talk. It was very informative. Thank you, Louis. Jose, goodbye. Thank you. Have a wonderful day.